So, welcome everyone to Monday Momentum. As usual, this is 20 minutes reset, but it's really reset, but it's to start your week, right? And you're starting it with clarity, with purpose, and power. And today's topic, I think, is a little special because it's for the go getters, the high achievers, those people who carry the weight of everyone else's expectation. Including their own, right? So they always want to make sure that they're on top of every single thing. And today we'll be talking about the discipline of enough, right? When doing less actually becomes a power move. Because we live in a world that sometimes worships more. So keep doing more, keep being more hustle, more goals, more pressure, more chaos. And we actually celebrate that. But I think the truth is if we distill that a little bit, right? The truth is that doing less is not a weakness, it's actually wisdom, because you get to pick the things that really matter, and that's what you're putting all your energy, your focus, your time, all those things into it, right? So today I want us to kind of talk about why enough is one of the most disciplined decisions that you could make. So saying enough is enough. This is what I'm doing. This is what I have in my plate. And also, when you start thinking about enough, right, you now identify all the things that need to be released. What are the things that you need to let go of? And then also, you need to start thinking about building a strategy around taking away the things that you don't need so that you can multiply what matters. So let me just kind of walk you through what that means, right? When you start taking things off your plate, right, or out of your schedule, then you start beginning to, the things that are there, you can now put more time, more effort into it. So that's what it looks like when we start subtracting and start multiplying the things that matter. So let's get into it. Those are the three things that I think we'll talk about. And please feel free to put stuff in the chat, in the comments, ask questions if you're like, what does this look like? Because if I take stuff away, what am I supposed to do? So I want you to think about, even before we start, right? I want you to think about this statement. It's a little bold, but I want you to think on it and just kind of spend time. If everything matters, then nothing really matters, right? So if everything gets equal amount of like weight and stress and support, then nothing is going to shine, right? So if everything matters, then nothing really matters. And we have been conditioned to equate busyness with importance. So if you're busy, then you're really important. That means that you're the person everybody calls to, the person everyone turns to, and you just keep being busy. A plug for, we have a webinar on Wednesday that is actually busyness is not a badge of honor. So if you're thinking about that, you should come on Thursday 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll actually break down what busyness should look like and what it shouldn't look like. And being overwhelmed, again, is not a badge of honor, right? It's a red flag. So if you always constantly feel overwhelmed, then you really need to sit down and look at your plate, your schedule, your time, and figure out what really matters. Because growth doesn't always come with addition, right? Growth doesn't always come with like stacking more and more and more things. Sometimes it actually comes with taking away the things that you don't need anymore. Or sometimes it's what, and then sometimes it's who, right? We think that growth is like just going up, 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 which actually thinks about, oh, you're adding to yourself. But sometimes it actually just means that what are the things that I need to take away in order for the right things to flourish? If you think about it, right, when you think about exercise, I love talking about exercise and equating a lot of things in life. We can equate a lot of things in life to exercise, but you don't get stronger when you exercise 24/7, 7 days a week, right? You actually fatigue your muscles, you tire out, like strength, heart, muscle, everything tires out, right? So you get stronger. We get stronger when you focus your effort, and then you also focus your effort on the things that matter and on recovery. So that's how you can think about it, and in exercise, right? And that's how you also think about in life, right? You don't work 24/7, 7 days a week to get stronger. You actually have effort, like determined, detailed effort into something, and then recovery. If you think about the most powerful brands, I like exercise, and then I like to see what people are doing and see how we can emulate them, right? And the most powerful brands in the world, they don't try to do everything, right? They do one thing, but that one thing that they do it with precision, they do it with perfection, they do it with just like they pour everything into that thing. So imagine if you became, like if you didn't think of yourself as a jack of all trades, because then you become master of none, right? So think about life and how you want to be. Like, you want to be the person that is an expert in that thing that you do, knowing that like that is your zone of genius. That's the thing you're doing. And then you pour all your effort into that. So you don't stack your plate with 1,000 things. You do one, you do two, and you master that, right? So your real power, it doesn't lie in how much you can cram into your life. Like, we can always add more and more, but it is what you're brave enough to cut out. Like, what are the things that need to get cut out? And it's also sometimes not what, but it's also who. So if you're thinking about it, right, if you're starting to think this could be me, what exactly are the things I need to take out? Drop enough in the chats. I just like to see what people are, what they're thinking. But that's how I want you to start thinking about, when you think about like the discipline of enough, right? How can I become powerful? What is my power move? And it's sometimes it's subtraction, not addition. So I always try to give you guys three things that I think would be very beneficial in how you can implement the things we talk about on Monday Momentum. Because the truth is, the goal of coming here today is how can you learn, grow, power yourself to get you through the week at maximum effort, maximum strength, maximum growth. So that's what you need to be thinking about. So three things I said I would give you. I think the first one is for you to define what enough is for you, right? Like, what does enough look like for that one person? Let me mute. Okay, perfect. So, and that's how kind of you need to start looking at this, because most people, and you might be someone on this call, like, you are chasing goals that you don't really define. So you're like, I want to do this and I want to be this person. But when you start really clearly defining those goals, right, then you can now focus and you can lean in, and then that could be your power move. So if you think about like work, you have to be clear on how much is enough income, right? Like, how much is enough that I'm not burning out, the midnight oil from morning to night. You have to think about how much is enough work, right? What is important to you? How much is enough success? Because if you're like, I want to reach the top of the top of the top of the top, what is it costing you? Is it costing you family? Is it costing you peace? Is it costing you health? Is it costing you your mental sanity? So those are some of the things that you have to start thinking about when you ask yourself, like, what is enough for me? And enough is different for different people, right? There's some people who want to be, I'll go back to exercise, who want to be ultra marathoners. And so they are running hundreds of miles a week. But that's what they want to do, right? That necessarily is not, that's not something, that's not a goal for you. Your goal might be, I want to reach the top at work. I want to be CEO, manager, whatever it is. So then you're doing the thing that you need to do to help you get there. So you have to figure out what's enough. And for some, enough might be, I want to make enough to make sure my family's comfortable and then spend every waking moment with them when I'm not working, right? That is what's enough to you. So I want you to write down an enough statement, right? It could be like, for me, enough is making, I don't know, maybe like $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, so that I can have my evenings free to spend time with family. What is enough? What does enough look like to you? Because I said in the beginning, right, we come here for clarity and power. So the more clear you are, the more you have clarity on the things that matter, the more you are able to walk in your purpose, walk in that unique path that is yourself. So think about that. And then the next thing is, so I said, kind of think about what is enough for you. Along those same lines, is you have to start eliminating the things that are sucking your energy. And now the things that are sucking your energy could be things that are draining your time, but they're also draining your spirit. But it could also be who, right? And so you have to ask yourself, what's the thing that I'm tolerating that no longer serves me? Or who is the person that I'm still tolerating that no longer serves me? When you are so focused on growth and on expansion, you have to start asking yourself hard questions, and then you have to follow through with doing the things that will set you apart, that will set your family apart, that will set your professional life apart. But you have to start making some hard decisions and doing some hard things, right? And then along those same lines, you could even be like, where am I saying yes to avoid guilt, instead of like to avoid guilt because I keep saying yes, that is completely out of alignment with who I want to be, where I want to go. Again, you have to ask yourself hard questions because that's what matters the most. So I want you to think, I want you to cut it out. We've talked about boundaries before in this, in Monday Momentum, but unsubscribe, reschedule it, let it go. It's okay to say no for the right reasons when it has to, when it aligns with your growth. So as you're thinking about enough, right, I also want you to think about what is sucking your energy. Where is the energy leak in your life? I think that this is so important. And I think it also helps with the third one, right? This is something that I am doing personally, right? It is to protect white space. That is maybe one of the most important things I think that I have done and have implemented in my life that I want to share with you guys. It's this idea that you don't have to fill every slot on your calendar to feel productive. You do not have to do that, right? You can actually have white space. And white space is time to think, time to reflect, time to create, time to breathe. This is where vision happens. And I'll give you a very practical example because it happened this morning, right? One of my team members were trying to set a meeting, and I said, don't put it in the middle of my entire schedule because it's going to like mess up my white space, right? My white space is like 2 hours of my time where I want to think, I want to create, I want to block out the noise to be able to do stuff. So I'm telling you things that like I am implementing because I think that it really matters, right? So I'm power, when you're thinking about power, right, it doesn't always come from pushing and from grinding. Sometimes it comes from pausing because it's in those quiet moments that like the ideas come, the vision happens, the creative process starts to take root. So where in your schedule do you have that time, right? And you have to be purposeful about it. You have to like, you have to block it with every part of your being, because if not, something else will take that space. It's very easy for us to include stuff, but when you take that time out, right, and you say, this is my time block, this is my power block, magic can happen. And so I do 2 hours, right, but I would encourage you to do 1 hour, just 1 hour this week. I try to do a lot more than that because, as you know, it's important to me to be able to, because this is how like this is how I grow, this is how I move forward, this is how I help my team, this is how I help the business grow. So that power time is very important for me. But you could start with an hour, you could start with 2 hours a week, you could start very small, and but you have to be purposeful about it. So it's not an hour to go lay on the couch and fall asleep. It's an hour where you're like, I'm going to turn off everything, I'm going to sit in maybe a part of the house or part of the office, or I'm going to take a walk, right? It could be whatever that hour looks like for you, but it's an hour to think, to reflect, to recalibrate. That's what that hour should look like. So I want to give you, my goal always is to give you ideas and strategies of things that I'm doing that I think that's working, that maybe that can help you and we can build on it together. So this week, my challenge is simple, right? I want you to step into the discipline of enough. The more you do this and the more you actually spend time focusing and doing this, the better it will be. So I want you to define what enough looks like for you, right? You have to, because when you figure that out, as soon as you hit your enough threshold, the easy answer for you is no, this doesn't align with who I am. It doesn't align with my big goal. It doesn't align with my family goals. It doesn't align with my professional goals. So your answer is going to be a simple no, a no that you don't say, you don't feel guilty about. You can just say it and say, this is out of like my scope. This is not something that I want to pursue. So that's the enough. And then I told you about a time, one energy or time leak. So person, place, thing, what, figure out what that is and cut it out. And then do just one block of white space this week. Try it out and see. I love, especially the white space, because it's very important to me. If you do it, if you test it, if you try it, I want you to come back and tell me, because I want, and I will also tell you kind of what I use a white space for. Full disclosure, I have one coming up to this afternoon where I'm just going to pause and think. And I'm thinking about creating a course. And so I'm going to spend my time really thinking about that and pouring into that. Quiet, phones turned off, do not disturb. And that's what that looks like for me, right? Just because you can do more doesn't mean you should. That's what this is about, right? It's stepping into your power of enough, but using that enough to grow and in the things that matter the most. So as I wrap up, I want you to know that success is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters on purpose. I told you that this, if you do this well, if you do this right, it will align with your purpose, with who you want to be, where you want to go, how you want to grow, the extent to which that growth looks like. But it's about doing what matters. And this is not as easy as maybe I'm making it to be in 20 minutes, right? This takes work, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes setting aside that time to figure out what really matters to you and then going at it with everything that you've got. And so every time that you subtract something that is not aligned with who you are, where you're going, you're going to create room for peace, for power, for purpose, which I think is the most important thing, right? I always tell you guys, this life that we're living, it's only one. And so I want to do it to the best of my ability. I want to live it to the best of my ability. I want to be around the people that matter the most. I want to grow to the best of my ability, because sometimes we don't get second chances. So as I wrap up, Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we are doing a webinar on how busyness is not a badge of honor. So it ties into this and kind of expatiates on it on a larger scale. So think about an hour of like figuring out what busyness doesn't look like and how you can now free up your space, your time, your energy to do the things that matter to the most. So I want us to normalize living with intention, not overload, to not keep doing the same thing over and over, but doing the things that matter, because that is how you make it that's how it becomes your power move, right? It's doing less to create more in your life. So that's all I got today. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put it in the chat. I definitely love to kind of hear what people are thinking, what people are up to, and we could take it from there. What if the only time you have in the entire day is at night when you're already exhausted? How do you handle it? I don't think this is true. I think that if you're super honest with yourself, if you're honest with your time, there may be things that you can cut out that will make time for the things that matter. But also, if the only time is at night, then maybe you don't do it right at peak exhaustion. Maybe you create 15 minutes before or 20, right? You don't have to start with an hour. You can start less and build up to that. When you see the power of it, right? When you see the result from doing that thing, I think that it'll help you. How do you shut out your brain when it's constantly thinking on one thing or the other? So like thinking about multiple things. You have to be purposeful about this. You, like I said, this is a time that you turn off your phone. You make sure it's on do not disturb, like any possible outside distraction. And if maybe you work from home and this is like there are too many people there, this is maybe the time you decide to take a walk, or you can even sit in your car, right? There's a bunch of times where I get like my thinking done in the car, maybe from point A to point B or whatever that looks like. So you have to become creative. If all of your time is not yours, then you have to be very creative with how you make this work. But I guarantee you that if you do this, right? If you do this and if you do this well, you will see the benefit of it, and you will now start figuring out times that you can like make it work, and you can like maybe a lunch break, or you could be, like I said, you could be very creative about it. You just have to make it a priority. How much is enough? A valid question to ask. Enough is accomplishing all the set goals. Love it. Enough is about doing what really matters. It sounds like something to be really intentional about. Agreed. It's very insightful. You're very welcome. 15 to 20 minutes sounds great. Yes. So I said an hour. I said I do two, but you could start small. So yes. Any other questions? These questions are really good. So, and it's very practical. That's the most important thing. I think when we come here every Monday is that we take away very simple, practical things and goals that we can easily implement, and that we can easily implement, take it to the next level. Okay. It's 22, so we're 2 minutes past, but I just want to tell everyone thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and let us go and crush it.